Hear this, dear ones. There comes a time in every woman's journey when being quiet becomes her greatest triumph. When she stops feeling the need to explain herself, stops trying to win arguments to be understood, and instead starts putting all her attention on herself. When this happens, everything around her starts to change. This isn't some magical trick. This is about working on herself from the inside. This is true strength, because when you quietly work on making yourself better, the world around you reacts without you having to make a sound. Relationships you once tried so hard to hold on to start to drift away easily. Doors you used to beg to open now swing wide on their own. That's when you realize you've reached a place where nothing can truly touch you. This message isn't for those who always speak loudly. It's for the woman who is tired of feeling like no one gets her. It's for the woman who is ready to build her life without telling everyone, to heal her inner wounds without shouting about it, and to grow stronger without needing cheers or clap. If you're done showing everyone your worth and you are ready to take back control of your life with a calm, powerful presence, then this message is for you. Watch this all the way through, and something deep inside you will change forever. Being quiet isn't a sign that you lack strength. It's a sign that you are full of it. When a woman chooses to be silent, especially in a world that constantly expects her to react and respond, she is making a conscious choice to protect her energy, her sense of self-worth, and her inner calm. Silence doesn't mean you're giving up. It doesn't mean you are weak or that you have nothing to say. What it means is that you are wise enough to know when your words are no longer needed. It means you understand that your inner power is very precious and not everyone deserves to have access to it. There is immense power in knowing that your simple presence speaks more loudly than anything you could ever utter. A woman who understands the quiet power of silence stops chasing explanations or final goodbyes. She no longer wastes her valuable time trying to make herself clear to people who have already decided they won't understand her. She doesn't fight to be heard in places where her voice is not respected or honored. Instead, she simply walks away, with her head held high, her dignity fully intact, and her silence serving as her final and strongest message. That truly is strength. That is showing respect for yourself. That is what it looks like when a woman makes a firm decision that she is no longer available for confusing and draining emotional ups and downs. When you stop reacting to every rude comment, every small argument, every attempt to make you upset, you begin to gain control over the one thing that no one can ever take from you: your ability to control yourself. People often don't know what to do with a woman who doesn't even blink, who doesn't lash out in anger, who doesn't beg or argue or cry for attention. They don't expect you to stay calm. They expect you to fall apart. But when you stay silent, when you remain calm and steady, it throws them off. It takes away their power, and it reminds them clearly that you cannot be messed with. Choosing silence means choosing to grow. It means deciding to look inside yourself instead of constantly giving your energy to people who only want to drain it. It means being so comfortable with who you are that you don't need anyone else to tell you that you are whole or good enough. The world is a noisy place. There is always endless chatter. People are always trying to pull you into fights that were never truly yours to begin with. But when you focus on yourself, when you choose not to respond, not to explain, not to react, you are showing the world that your inner peace matters more than what anyone else thinks. This type of silence is not about being passive or doing nothing. It is a very deliberate choice. It is the silence that comes from deep healing, from learning important lessons, from simply watching and observing. You start to see things much more clearly when you are no longer speaking just to be heard. You begin to notice the patterns, The people who only show up when they need something from you, the ones who try to control you by making you feel bad, the ones who can't stand to see you shine unless they are also getting some of the light. And instead of directly confronting them, instead of trying to make them change, you simply become quiet. You don't explain. You don't try to justify your actions. You just walk away. And that silence itself becomes your ultimate freedom. In the quiet, a woman gets her power back. She gets to rebuild her life. She gets to dream without any limits. And she gets to truly hear her own voice, her real voice, the one that has been drowned out by all the noise and confusion and pressure from the outside world. And when she truly listens to that inner voice, she becomes unstoppable. She no longer needs other people to give her permission to be herself. She no longer lives in fear of being turned down or judged. Her choices start to match her true spirit, not her fears. And that's when the world starts to see her in a completely different way. There is something incredibly powerful about a woman who doesn't need to tell everyone her every move. She isn't posting every step she takes. She isn't defending her worth to anyone. She isn't chasing after attention. She is simply doing the work, becoming more and more herself every single day in a quiet way. And when she steps back out into the world, the positive results of her work speak much louder than any words ever could. That is the kind of woman people truly respect, not because she demanded it, but because she simply lived it. It takes great strength to stay silent when you know you are right. It takes strong self-restraint not to hit back when someone treats you poorly. It takes courage to walk away with grace and dignity when someone has tried to hurt your spirit. But every single time you do these things, you win. Every time you choose peace over argument, stillness over getting caught up in drama, you are stepping into the best version of yourself. That is the real sign of strength. Not shouting, not fighting, not trying to prove anything, but simply knowing who you are and moving forward calmly, powerfully, and completely unshaken. So when a woman chooses to be silent, she isn't losing her voice at all. She is actually finding it. She isn't retreating or running away. She is getting ready to re-enter the world in a stronger way. She isn't avoiding conflict. She is refusing to lower herself to fights that are beneath her. And by doing so, she becomes a woman who cannot be shaken. A woman who is led by her inner strength, not by outside noise. The woman who chooses silence has already won. When a woman turns her attention inward and starts to put her energy into herself, something very deep and meaningful happens. She gets back everything that was lost in all the commotion and noise of life. Energy is not endless. And for too long, women have been taught to constantly give to their family, to give in relationships, to give at their jobs, to give to their friends, until there is absolutely nothing left for themselves. But when a woman decides that she will no longer spend her strength on things that make her feel tired, and instead starts to pour that same strength into her own growth, her own healing, her own happiness, and her own life's purpose, everything truly begins to change. She starts to feel whole again, not because someone else made her feel complete, but because she made herself complete. The same energy that once went into fixing broken relationships, trying to please people who never truly valued her, or trying to prove her worth to those who never truly saw her, is now directed towards her own personal journey of becoming better. And that is where her power truly begins to grow. Not in making noise, not in creating drama, but in the sacred and special space of investing in herself. There is absolutely nothing selfish about choosing yourself. There is great wisdom in understanding that giving from an empty cup only leads to complete exhaustion. Right? Like, When she starts choosing inner peace over feeling pressured time for herself, over time spent explaining herself, her spirit truly begins to blossom. The moment she stops waiting for others to choose her, she finally realizes that she was always the chosen one, the one who was truly capable, the one who quietly supported others, the one who endured so much in silence, and now she is the one who will rise up, simply because she chose herself. As she gets her energy back, the people and things that once had control over her begin to lose their hold. The toxic friendships, the relationships that were one-sided, the endless cycle of trying to be good enough. None of it can survive when she sends her power back inward. It's not about cutting people off with anger or hatred. It's about choosing herself with deep self-love. It's about understanding that she doesn't have to make herself smaller to fit into places where her spirit cannot truly thrive. She doesn't have to give her valuable energy to people who will just misuse it. Instead, she creates space for herself. Space to breathe, space to build, space to heal, space to dream. And in that quiet space, she finds absolute clarity. She starts to see who she truly is without all the loud demands and expectations from others. She begins to hear her own thoughts again, not the voices of others telling her who she should be. And in that newfound clarity, she discovers that her worth was never in how much she gave, but it was always in simply being herself, her presence, her spirit, her voice, her silence, her boundaries, her dreams. And the more she focuses on herself, the more everything in her life falls into place. Because when her energy is no longer spread thin in many directions, it becomes sharp, focused, and absolutely unstoppable. Her inner glow changes. It's not a loud glow. It's not about makeup or getting attention or collecting likes on social media. It's a quiet glow. It's a special and sacred glow. It's the glow of a woman who knows exactly who she is and refuses to waste even one more tiny bit of herself trying to convince other people. It's the glow of someone who is done just surviving and is now truly thriving. And other people start to feel it. Without her saying a single word, they notice, they feel the shift. They sense the new boundary. They feel the presence of someone who no longer gives up parts of herself just to make others feel comfortable. That's when she becomes untouchable. Not because she is acting arrogant, but because she is deeply rooted in herself. The deeper she goes into understanding herself, the more she attracts what is truly meant for her. Opportunities start to line up for her. Her relationships change for the better. People who used to take her for granted either rise up to meet her at her new level or completely disappear, and she lets them go without a fuss. She no longer begs anyone to stay in her life. She is too busy becoming the amazing woman she was always meant to be. Her value is no longer connected to who accepts her, but to how deeply she accepts herself. This profound change is not easy. It takes courage to stop giving to everyone else and finally start giving to yourself. It takes strength to pull back your energy from the world and begin tending to your own inner garden. But once you do, you realize this is where the real transformation truly begins. Not when you are constantly giving to others, hoping for their approval, but when you are pouring into yourself because you know deep down that you truly deserve it. She becomes magnetic, not by forcing anything, but by simply being real and true to herself. She no longer chases anything, not love, not attention, not recognition. Everything that is truly meant for her begins to flow to her because she is no longer blocked by noise, by trying to please everyone, or by self-doubt. Her focus has returned to where it rightly belongs, on herself. Her energy is no longer leaking into things that don't help her grow. And now, with every step she takes, her path becomes clearer. Her true purpose feels closer. Her soul feels lighter. She's no longer waiting for someone else to save her. She is saving herself. She's no longer hoping for peace from the outside world. She is building it within herself. Her silence becomes sacred. Her presence becomes powerful as her focus becomes fierce. And her life, without all the chaos, without constantly over-explaining things, without giving away pieces of herself, starts to match everything she once thought was out of her reach, all because she chose to stop giving her energy to things that drain her and started pouring it into what truly helps her grow: herself, her peace, her dreams, her wholeness. And by doing so, she didn't just get her energy back, she multiplied it many times over. Peace is the most valuable thing a woman can possess. In a world that constantly pushes her to prove herself, to perform for others, and to make everyone else happy, choosing peace over pleasing others is a bold act of respecting herself. The real shift begins when she finally understands that her worth is not connected to who approves of her, who claps for her, or who stays in her life. She learns that peace is not something she finds through other people's acceptance. It's something she creates within herself by refusing to compromise her true spirit just to make others feel comfortable. The moment she stops trying to be everything for everyone, she becomes everything she truly needs to be for herself. Because she's got her thought process, like you are the parent without the kid, and it's completely unwarranted for you to be angry with your kid because you're angry. But like, if there is a quiet and freeing feeling that comes when a woman no longer needs validation from outside herself. She no longer changes the way she speaks to avoid being rejected. She no longer says yes when her heart is screaming no. She no longer bends herself out of shape just to keep things calm around her, because she has finally chosen to protect the deep peace within herself. And that kind of inner balance, that strong and clear sense of self, is the beginning of her true power. When she stops looking outside for approval, she truly begins to rise. Trying to please others often comes from a place of fear of not being loved, not being wanted, or not being seen. But that fear starts to disappear when a woman realizes that true love, real recognition, begins with her. The people who truly matter won't need her to make herself smaller. They won't need her to silence her truth just to make them feel more comfortable. They won't need her to wear a mask just to keep them close. When she finds the courage to stop performing and start simply being herself, her peace becomes a louder statement than any noise of rejection. Every time she chooses peace, she is choosing herself. She is saying, I matter. And it doesn't have to be a loud declaration. She doesn't need to post about it on social media. She doesn't need to defend her boundaries. She doesn't need to explain why she walked away from a draining friendship or why she said no to a commitment that once consumed her. Her peace speaks for itself. It shines out from her. It calms the chaos around her. It becomes her very presence. And once she experiences that kind of deep peace, she will never settle for anything less ever again. She no longer feels the need to go above and beyond just to be seen as kind. She knows her kindness doesn't come from giving too much. It comes from being complete and whole within herself. A woman who has chosen peace over pleasing others has chosen wholeness over just a good image. She no longer wants to be seen as perfect. She wants to be real, honest, and deeply rooted. And in that raw honesty, she becomes incredibly magnetic, because being authentic is rare, and inner peace is a very powerful force. There are times when choosing peace means letting go of the need to fix other people, letting go of the strong urge to explain your choices to people who would never understand your journey anyway. Letting go of being the person who always has to hold everything together for everyone else. Letting go of the guilt for putting yourself first. That act of letting go is not selfish. It is sacred and very important, because in that release, a woman finally comes back to herself. She stops fighting battles that were never hers to begin with. She stops losing sleep over what others might think or say. She stops trying to impress people who never truly valued her in the first place. Her focus turns inward. And that's where her real life begins. The one she didn't have to perform for. The one that feels safe, stable, and perfectly aligned with who she is. A life built not on making others happy, but on honoring herself. True transformation doesn't happen in a single day. It's a continuous process. It takes strength to say no when you were taught to always say yes. It takes courage to disappoint others in order to stay true to yourself. It takes faith to trust that the peace you are choosing today will lead to a better tomorrow, even if others don't understand your path right now. But over time, as the noise fades and the tension disappears, she realizes that this is what she was always missing. Her peace was never in their hands. It was always in her ability to choose herself. She becomes the woman who walks into a room and doesn't need to be the loudest to be noticed and felt. Her peace speaks before she does. Her energy communicates without any effort, and those who try to disturb it no longer gain access to her. She protects her personal space because she understands that her peace is her ultimate power. Not everyone deserves a place at her table. Not everyone should have a say in her life story. And she no longer feels bad about keeping it that way. This is the quiet revolution of a woman who no longer lives to please other people. She no longer compromises her boundaries just to keep things calm. She is the peace. She no longer tries to earn love. She gives love to herself. And by doing so, she creates a life that is no longer built on showing off, but on simply being present. No longer driven by needing approval, but by a strong sense of purpose. No longer controlled by fear, but by absolute freedom. When she chose peace over pleasing, she didn't lose anything. She gained everything. She gained clarity, she gained strength, she gained her true voice, she gained her truth, and most importantly, she gained herself. Being still is where the real transformation truly begins. When a woman stops chasing things, stops forcing issues, and stops explaining everything, and instead becomes truly still, something special starts to happen. In that stillness, there is space. Space to truly breathe, to hear her inner thoughts, to feel her true emotions. And in that space, she starts to hear the quiet voice that has been buried under years of outside noise. The voice of her own inner knowing. The voice that doesn't shout, but gently guides. The voice that has always known the truth. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing at all. It means doing everything with deep purpose and thought. It means moving from a place of clear understanding, not from a place of chaos. From being in harmony, not from anxiety. There is an unmistakable power in the woman who becomes still. She is no longer impulsive or quick to act without thinking. She is no longer rushing to fix things or to prove herself. She is no longer pouring herself out in every direction. She becomes centered, focused. She is firmly rooted in her core values, rooted in her life's purpose, rooted in her personal truth, and from that strong foundation, her life begins to fall perfectly into place. She doesn't need to announce her growth to everyone. She doesn't need to perform her healing for an audience. Her energy simply changes, and everything around her starts to shift in response to that change. Stillness teaches her the big difference between just reacting and truly responding. When she was caught up in the noise, she reacted to everything. Every insult, every betrayal, every doubt. But now, with stillness, she carefully chooses her response. She doesn't let her emotions completely control her actions. She allows emotions to come, but she doesn't become consumed by them. She observes them, she learns from them, and then she acts not out of pain, but out of deep wisdom. This is where her power truly multiplies, because the world cannot control a woman who controls her own responses. In stillness, she begins to let go of everything that was never truly meant for her. The constant need to be liked, the constant need to be understood, the constant need to be validated by people who don't even understand their own worth. She lets it all fall away, gently. And what remains is the pure truth. The truth of who she is without all the outside noise, without the guilt, without the expectations of others. She starts to feel what her soul has been trying to tell her for many years, and once she hears it, she can't unhear it. This kind of deep clarity doesn't come from forcing things. It doesn't come from constantly being busy. It comes from pausing long enough to truly ask herself, what do I truly want? Who am I truly becoming? What no longer feels right for me? And when those answers come to the surface, she truly listens, because stillness teaches her to trust herself again. For too long, the world told her to look outside herself for answers. But in stillness, she sees that everything she needs is already inside her. Her ability to judge wisely, her inner knowledge, her own voice, her deep knowing. The woman who honors stillness doesn't need to compete with anyone. She doesn't need to chase after anything. She doesn't need to beg for a spot at any table. She builds her own table, quietly, steadily, with purpose, and those who are meant to join her will naturally appear. She no longer forces connections. She no longer over-explains her worth. She no longer allows desperation to guide her decisions. Her pace might be slower, but it is steady and unwavering. Her progress might be quiet, but it is long-lasting because it is rooted in something much deeper than just external noise. It is rooted in her inner balance. As she truly embraces stillness, her very presence begins to speak much louder than her words ever could. She walks into rooms differently. She carries herself with a calm confidence that cannot be faked. Not everyone understands it, but they definitely feel it. They feel the strength in her silence, the grace in her boundaries, the power in her self-restraint. Because she is no longer driven by her ego, but by her inner peace. No longer by outside pressure, but by her own truth. No longer by fear, but by her true purpose. Stillness also gives her the space to truly rest, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. She no longer feels the constant need to always be doing, fixing, helping, or proving herself. She allows herself to pause, to reflect deeply, to recharge completely. And in that rest, her spirit heals, her vision becomes clearer, her confidence returns. Not the kind of confidence the world gives and takes away, but the kind that comes from deep, unshakable belief in herself. She no longer asks for permission to rest, to feel, to simply be. She simply honors her own natural rhythm. This profound inner change doesn't always look like success to the outside world. It may look like spending time alone, like keeping a distance, like being quiet. But what others don't see is that she's rebuilding herself to be stronger, wiser, gentler, and more focused than ever before. She's not falling behind. She's actually stepping directly into perfect alignment. And when she does move again, her steps will be very deliberate. Her path will be crystal clear. Her presence will be undeniable. She no longer allows chaos to dictate where she goes. She no longer allows a sense of urgency to steal her peace. She no longer allows the opinions of others to cloud her vision. Stillness has become her powerful tool, her safe haven, her source of clarity. And in that sacred space, she becomes everything she was created to be. Not because she fought harder, but because she finally stopped fighting and started truly listening to herself. Stillness is not weakness. It is profound wisdom. It is immense strength. It is the quiet confidence of a woman who knows exactly who she is, what she truly wants, and what she will no longer tolerate in her life. A woman who moves not to impress others, but to align with herself. Not to chase things, but to naturally attract them. Not to just survive, but to live fully, freely, and with clear intention. And once she truly embraces stillness, there's no turning back, because she now knows, without a doubt, that this is where her real power lives. Letting go of things, or detachment, is one of the highest forms of personal growth. When a woman reaches a point where she no longer feels the constant need to react, to explain herself, to prove her worth, or to hold on to anything that disturbs her inner peace, she has stepped into an entirely new level of power. She no longer chases after explanations or final goodbyes. She no longer begs for clarity. She doesn't ask why someone treated her badly, why they left, or why they didn't choose her. She simply lets go, not because she doesn't care at all, but because she finally understands that some things are just not worth the emotional energy they demand. Some questions are better left unanswered. Some people are better left exactly where they are. This kind of letting go isn't cold or uncaring. It's a deep sense of clarity. It's wisdom that comes from experiencing pain, from disappointments, from lessons learned the hard way. When a woman lets go, she isn't closing her heart. She is opening her eyes. She is no longer blind to repeating negative patterns. She no longer makes excuses for disrespect. She no longer believes she needs to suffer to be loved or stay silent to be accepted. She lets go with grace, with peace, and with the unshakable knowledge that what is truly meant for her will never require her to lose herself just to keep it. She stops endlessly explaining her boundaries. She stops trying to justify why she keeps her distance. She stops pouring energy into relationships that don't give back to her. She learns that not everyone is meant to stay in her life, and that's perfectly okay. Growth means shedding old layers. Evolving means releasing what no longer serves you. Healing means walking away without bitterness and trusting that letting go isn't rejection. It's actually a redirection towards something better, towards alignment, towards deeper peace. In this space of letting go, a woman becomes her own sturdy anchor. She's not waiting for an apology to move forward with her life. She's not waiting for someone else to see her worth. She sees it herself, and that is absolutely enough. She realizes that her inner peace is too valuable to be damaged by the opinions of people who couldn't even handle her truth. She doesn't react to disrespect with loud words or arguments. She responds with silence, with distance, with choosing to elevate herself, because not everything deserves her energy, not everything deserves her voice. She lets go of the need to prove a point to anyone.